Wow, that's awesome, isn't it? Good morning, church. And if you're joining us online, welcome this morning. What a wonderful time of worship we had this morning. I was really blessed by that. I was reading a grandmother was looking after her two little children. She had a 7-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. And boy, they were really naughty. And when it came time, I know that's a big surprise, isn't it? And when it came time for the mother to turn up and pick the children up, the little girl said, "Are you going to tell Mummy about how naughty we've been?" She said, "Well, no, I won't. But if she asks me, I cannot tell a lie." At which point the little boy said, "Why not? I'm only 5 and I can lie great." We're going to continue in our series this morning on the Armour of God. I'm going to read this passage from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 13 to 18. What a wonderful passage to encourage us to how to wear the armour of God. It says, "Therefore, take up the whole armour of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints." In this message, we're looking specifically at the belt of truth. I don't know if that's hiding behind there. It looks like it is, yes. It's got the sword hanging off it, which is perfect. Paul actually spent a lot of time in prison, plenty of time guarded by Roman soldiers to discover the order in which the soldier put on their armour and prepared for battle. So the first thing we need to note in that passage is that Paul's list is exactly in that order. And the first thing to put on was the belt or the girdle of truth. It was absolutely essential. First of all, because the sword actually hung off the belt. And second, because in a day when men wore long, flowing clothing, those garments had to be bound together so that the soldier wouldn't trip over his own clothing while in battle. It'd be rather unfortunate, wouldn't it, in a battle? Truth is right at the foundation of our armour. So let me begin by just saying that truth is absolute. Truth is absolute. In John 18, 37 to 38, it says, Jesus speaking, he says, "For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." And Pontius Pilate responded by asking the question, "What is truth?" That question is still the same today. What is truth? And I want you to think about this because the concept of relative truth is very common. There's a push against the idea that there is any such thing as absolute truth. A common statement is, well, that may be true for you, but it's not true for me. Some things are actually relative. We might look at a painting and we might be standing together and I'll look at it and think, how beautiful that painting is. And you might be thinking, I don't think it's beautiful. Well, that's fine. But that's got nothing to do with truth. That's just a matter of preferences. And it certainly doesn't apply to everything in life. There are absolutes in life, right? Everybody got there? Things are either true or they're not true. And if you don't believe that, try it out with your bank. The next time you go in, try this. Just say, "I'd like to withdraw $10,000 from my account." So you hand over your card and the teller puts it in and says, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but there's only $1.89 in your account." And you say, well, that may be true for you, but it's not for me. See, understanding this, the absolute nature of truth, helps to protect us. So you can stand on a skyscraper and you can say that you believe that gravity has no power over you, but if you jump, you're still going to end up as a little jam drop because you ignored one vital element: the truth. The truth. Creation is full of absolutes, and God has absolutes too. In fact, truth is the nature of God. We used to sing a song that was based on Deuteronomy 32, verse 4. It says, "He is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of truth and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he." God is a God of truth. All the promises of God are based on his integrity, because you know that everything he says is true. So what does it mean to wear the belt of truth? Well, there's a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of ideas came to mind, but I'm going to give you three things, what it means to wear the belt of truth. And the first thing is this: speaking the truth. Speaking the truth. In Ephesians 4:25, Paul writes, "Therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another." We are to say what we mean and mean what we say. Now, that doesn't mean being mean with what we say. Ali and I have a friend that we see only occasionally, and he came to visit us. And this was a number of years ago, and I asked if he'd like a cup of coffee. Now, you've got to understand, folks, that we're very particular in our house about our coffee, okay? We're very particular. We've spent years scaling the heights of coffee snobbery. We are now on the summit. Best coffee in Ipswich. I'm sorry, Mark, you're a close second. And so he had his coffee, and after he'd finished the coffee, I asked if he enjoyed it. He said, "No, not really." I said, "Get out of my house, will you?" Well, actually, I said, "Why?" He said, "It wasn't strong enough." Okay, so a few years later, he visited again. I asked him if he wanted a cup of coffee, and he said yes. Now, folks, it's important that you understand I had forgiven him, okay? Especially after my wife's message and Lynn's message a couple of weeks ago on forgiveness. How annoying. But I had forgiven him, and so made him another cup of coffee. Though I'd forgiven him, I remembered. Okay, I remembered. He wants strong coffee. He's getting strong coffee. So I made the coffee, gave it to him, he drank it, and I asked, "How was the coffee?" I said, "Did you enjoy it?" He said, "No, not really." I said, "What? Why?" He said, "It was too strong." I said, "I thought you liked strong coffee." He said, "Well, I used to, but I'm cutting down on caffeine." That was way too strong. I said, "Get out of my house." We don't need to be blunt or mean or rude to tell the truth. If a young lady asks you if you like her dress, you don't have to say, "No, it makes you look even fatter." Okay? You don't have to say things like that. There's a little thing that God likes to add to the truth as an extra ingredient. It's like a sweetener. It's like a sweetener. It's called love. It's called love. Ephesians 4:15. "But speaking the truth in love may grow up in all things into him who is the head, Christ." You notice this, that for us to actually grow up into Christ, to grow up into maturity, we not only have to speak the truth, we have to speak the truth in love. Love and truth go together. I heard Kinder Greening years ago say this: truth without love is brutality. Love without truth is sentimentality. I love that saying. Truth without love is brutality. Love without truth is sentimentality. You can't separate the two, because if you do, you'll end up with a caricature of both. Speaking the truth also means that my word has to be my bond. Who's heard that saying before? My word is my bond. My word is my bond. I shouldn't need to write it down and sign it and have it witnessed and swear on a Bible and say I promise, cross my heart, hope to die, pinky promise. I shouldn't need to say any of that, because if I say I'll do something, I should do it. See, Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no, no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Did you hear that? When you say yes, mean yes. And when you say no, mean no. And to step outside of those bounds, that's from the devil. This is according to Jesus, right? So what we say we're going to do, we need to follow through on. Have you ever said, somebody said they're going to do something? And I am a stickler. I tell you what, I was talking to somebody this morning. They asked me to do something. Guess what I do? Out comes my diary. I've got a to-do list. It's never ending. I never get through this to-do list because there's always something else turns up. But if I don't put it in my to-do list, I forget about it. And guess what? I am then no longer a man of my word, because then I fail to follow through on what I said I would do. It's not a matter of just forgetting about it. When we say what we mean what we say. This means following through on anything that we say we're going to do, because that's what God is like, isn't it? We depend on God being a person of his word. We absolutely depend on that. Did you know that the scriptures require us to do that even when it's inconvenient? I'm amazed how many times over the years I've had people say something like, oh, we'll be there for such and such. And then they'll bring up and say, oh, no, we decided to go to the coast, or something else that they want to do. Let me read something out to you from Psalm 15. And this, folks, is very challenging. It says, and by the way, when it's got L-O-R-D in the Old Testament in capital letters, that's actually the name Yahweh. Yahweh, who may abide in your tabernacle? Who may dwell in your holy hill? He who walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart. He who swears to his own hurt and does not change. Wow, that's quite a standard, isn't it? He who swears to his own hurt and does not change. In other words, you say you'll do something and then you find that it's inconvenient, that it's going to hurt you in some way, but you follow through anyway. God has a high standard for our words. Even when it hurts, we should still do what we said we're going to do. And that encourages us for a start to be extra careful in making promises about what we're going to do. Right? And I know all about this because my dad was a person who say, oh, we'll do this, but didn't follow through. But you see, if you really need to, did you know there's a scriptural way of getting out of that predicament? It's not the way that most people choose. Most people, even Christians, just say, sorry, I can't do that now. The scriptural way isn't one simply of declaring ourselves free from an obligation. The scriptural way is one of humility. Let me read this to you out of Proverbs chapter 6. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 1. My son, if you become surety for your friend, if you have, and a surety means to go guarantor for somebody, if you have shaken hands in pledge for a stranger, if you were snared by the words of your mouth. In other words, you said you're going to do something, right? And you were taken by the words of your mouth. So do this, my son, and deliver yourself, for you have come into the hand of your friend. Go and humble yourself, plead with your friend. You notice the difference in attitude there? Did you pick up the tone of that passage? When a godly person gives their word, then finds it would be really hard to follow through, very inconvenient, they humbly ask to be released. They don't just say, oh, no, can't do it now, sorry, see ya. They take the path of humility. Integrity in our words is part of the belt of truth. The second one is judging in truth. Judging in truth. Jesus said, do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. About 1,000 years before Jesus said that, God sent the prophet Samuel to anoint the next king of Israel. Samuel turned up at the home of Jesse and asked to see his sons. And as soon as Samuel saw Eliab, his eldest, he thought, wow, this is the one. What a fine-looking man, tall and handsome and strong. And the Lord said, no, it's not him, not him. Samuel went through 6 more of Jesse's sons, and it wasn't any of them either. Finally, Jesse remembered he actually had another son. That's bizarre, isn't it? I got another son. Yes, he's just down in the sheepfold. Right, tending the sheep. David was a songwriter and a guitarist, and probably around about this high. What? I'm just saying. The problem was that Samuel thought for sure that when he saw Eliab, that he was the one. But listen to this, 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. One of the most beautiful statements in the entire Bible. But Yahweh said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, for God has refused him. I have refused him. For Yahweh does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but Yahweh, he looks at the heart. He's looking a lot deeper, isn't he? And that's not the only time that sort of thing happened in Scriptures. In 1 Samuel 1, we read the account of Hannah. Now, Hannah was desperate to have a son. So when they went to Shiloh for the annual sacrifice, she went into the tabernacle and she was weeping and she was praying. And all Eli, who was the high priest, could see was her lips moving. And he just assumed that she was drunk and he told her to get rid of all the booze. Isn't it amazing how distracted we get by outward appearances? I'm not the only one, I'm sure. We so easily judge by externals. Are they pretty? Are they plain? Are they old or are they young? Are they talented or are they ordinary? Are they wearing good clothes or not? Are they rich or are they poor? Are they fat? Are they thin? Are they tall or are they short? What sort of accent do they have? What's their education? What's their skin color? What's their ethnicity? All of these things are the externals. An African man was sitting next to an Englishman at a conference dinner. And when the food was served, the Englishman leaned over and he said, "Eat, yum, 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 good, huh?" And when the drinks were served, he turned to the African again and he said, "Drink, slurp, 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 good, huh?" And after the meal, the speaker was invited to the platform. To the Englishman's surprise, the African man, who had 2 PhDs, spoke impeccable Oxford English and had represented his country in the United Nations for 3 years, got to his feet and went to the platform and delivered his message. When he finished, he sat down and he leaned over to the Englishman and he said, "Talk, blah, 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 good, huh?" I actually don't know if it's a true story or not. I'm trying to tell the truth, though. But I remember something that is true. Years ago, when I bought my first piano, I was 19 years old, 18 or 19 years old, and I went into, who remembers Ford's Music? Back in Wollongabba, and I went in, and this guy came and served me, and do you know, this guy could not look me in the eye. Seriously, I'm standing right in front of him and he's looking over there. All the time he's talking, I thought, there's something dodgy about this guy. He looks really shifty. I reckon he's going to rip me off. He's not trying to get too much money on me. He's going to sell me a really bad piano. I'm not sure about this guy. Anyway, a few years later, I was describing this guy to somebody else. And they said, oh, yeah, I know the guy you mean. He's the one with the eye problem. I said, what? Eye problem? He said, yeah, he's got an eye problem. He can't look straight ahead. If he looks straight ahead, he can't see you. He's got to look over to the side to see you. He had an eye defect. It made it impossible to look straight at me. See, to judge in truth, we have to be prepared to accept that what we see may not be the whole story, and resist the temptation to jump to conclusions. Judging in truth. And thirdly, dealing in truth. 1 John 3:18. My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Isn't it so easy for people to say, I love you? And then you find out if they really do by the way they behave. See, this means integrity in how we deal with others. The things that we do. Let me give you some examples of this. Ali and I have been involved in running our own business for years and years. And in that time, because of the nature of the business, we've actually been paid a lot of cash. Every cent has been declared to the ATO. And I know there are plenty of people, even some Christians, who would say, why would you do that? I mean, it's not as if our governments actually manage the money well. But see, that's not the point, isn't it? See, Jesus said this, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. No matter what your political persuasion, you'd have to admit that Nero was a lot worse than any of our prime ministers. Is that true? I don't care whether you're Labour or LNP or some other party, Nero was far worse than any prime minister we've ever had in our history. Being honest in declaring my income shouldn't depend on the government of the day. It's about my heart. It's about my integrity. And what about on a personal level? How am I meant to deal with people? Proverbs 11 verse 1 says, dishonest scales are an abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. To be a man of truth pleases God. To be a woman of truth pleases God. But to be a man of truth, I have to be a man of integrity. Just this month, I had the perfect opportunity to test this theory, by the way. I was getting my tax details ready to send to our accountant. Our tax always seems to be complicated. And I noticed as I was collecting the information that he never charged us for the previous year in preparation of our tax. Ripper beauty bonza, mate. The blessing of the Lord is upon me. How good is that? He didn't charge me. Who ever heard of an accountant not charging somebody? Then there was that little annoying voice. You know the one I mean, don't you? The still, small voice whispering, you have to tell him. Don't. I did. And how wonderful to be able to tell you that he was so impressed with my honesty, he decided not to charge us. Except that didn't happen. It cost us an extra $825, folks. An extra $825? Seriously? You know, sometimes wearing that belt of truth will cost you. It really will. It's going to be inconvenient. It's going to come back to bite you. It's going to hurt you in some way. But God wants us to do it nevertheless. And it does cost sometimes, like giving the money back when you've received too much change. Actually, I just love the look on their face. They say, oh, sorry, no, you just gave me $10 too much. They don't know what to do with that. Just, hang on, what? You're giving me money back? Like adjusting your bill when you realise that your tradie has underestimated the amount that he should have charged. I've done that before too. Said, excuse me, I don't think this is quite right. So they get ready for a fight now, you know. I think you've undercharged. What? Did you know that you can tell a lot about a person by how they handle money? Have you ever heard the saying, follow the money? Tells you a lot about a person. Tells you what they value, what they don't value, how selfish they are, and the level of their integrity. Years ago, our church had a combined meeting with another church in our area, and to take up the offering, they use those bags with handles. I don't know if you've seen those. They've got a handle on either side. Then there's like a pouch, right? So people can, they're designed to give you privacy, so people can't see exactly how much you are putting in. And on this particular day, they got the little kids in the church to actually take up the offering. So they'd walk up and down the aisles with these bags, and people would drop their money in. And all was going really well till one man dipped his hand in the bag, took it back out again, and the little boy called out at the top of his voice, "He didn't put anything in!" Oh, that was a bit of an embarrassment. He wasn't stupid. He could feel whether something was dropping inside or not. Proverbs 25:14, whoever falsely boasts of giving is like clouds and wind without rain. It kind of reminds me of a lovely couple in the book of Acts named Ananias and Sapphira, who lied about what they were giving to. Let me remind you of something that I said right back at the beginning. Without your belt, in the heat of battle, you will trip over your own clothing. You will trip over your own clothing. I remember years ago there used to be a series on TV called Cops. Everybody remember that? Cops, yep. And it was set in America. Had a camera guy go around with a cop car and they'd follow them around watching what they were doing. And it was a really interesting series actually. And in one episode, they had a guy who thought it was fashionable not to wear a belt. So his jeans actually hung down here and you could see the top 6 inches of his boxers underneath, right? Apparently that was cool to look like that. And anyway, the cops pull up, jump out of the car, and this guy runs for it. I mean, he took off, but he didn't get very far because his jeans fell down. Exactly right. His jeans fell down. He did and his feet got tangled up in them, and he did a full-on face plant. It was hilarious. Not so hilarious if it's you, right? Especially in the midst of battle. Especially in the midst of battle. Because when the belt goes down, you go down, and all the rest of the armor goes down with you. I just want to finish with this. Jesus said this in John 14, verse 6. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Remember I said the truth is absolute? It's absolute. That's why Jesus never said, I am our way, our truth, and our life. No, I am the way, implying the only way. I am the truth. I am the life, and nobody, not a single solitary soul, can come to the Father except through me. In other words, Jesus is the only means of having right relationship with God. He's the only means. There is no other name given under heaven among men by which we must be saved. That's what it says in the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 12. See, this is the thing, that Jesus is the truth. Jesus is the truth. And I'm just wondering here this morning, because I think I've said a few things this morning, it might be challenging to people, but maybe you're in this church and you can sit amongst the crowd and you can come in week by week and you can still never come to an actual relationship with God through Jesus. You sing all the songs. Where's Tash? She's hiding somewhere. There you are. I knew you were here somewhere. What an awesome time of worship that was this morning. And even if you weren't worship, what an awesome time of just singing and music. The band did a great job. It was all fantastic. But you see, you can sit here or stand and do all of that and not know the one that we're actually singing about. I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me, said Jesus. I wonder if we could all stand right now. Is there anyone here today and you actually realize that you don't have a real relationship with God? You know about Him, and you know lots of things about Him. You could probably describe Him, but to actually have this ongoing relationship, you don't have that. Is there anyone here this morning and you can see that you are in that position and you would like to have that relationship with God? I just want you to slip up your hand. Slip up your hand. Is there anybody here today, you want that relationship with God? Anybody here this morning? Don't be shy, you're among friends here. All the other people here are hoping that you will make this decision today. Is there anyone here today? I can see somebody, there's a hand going up, but you look more like you're dobbing somebody else in. Is there somebody in? Yeah? Maybe if that person is willing, you can bring them down here. Would you be willing to do that? I'm the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Hi. What's your name? Caitlin. You've never given your life to Jesus?
Not truly, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to sort that out this morning. I wonder if this morning, am I in a dead spot here? Maybe? No? Okay. We're just going to pray for Caitlin, and I'm going to lead you in a prayer, Caitlin. Is that okay? Thank you, Joan. And I'm going to show you how to give your life to Jesus. Okay? It's going to be a very personal thing between you and Him. You're not committing yourself to me. You're not committing yourself to a church, although we want you to keep coming. But you're committing yourself to the Lord. Okay? Okay. I wonder if you'd like to just repeat my prayer and say, Jesus, I'm sorry for my sins.
I'm sorry for my sins.
Are you sorry for your sins?
Yes.
Yeah. And I ask for you to forgive me
I ask you to forgive me,
and cleanse me.
cleanse me,
And I thank you
and I thank you
for dying for me.
for dying for me.
I thank you, Lord,
I thank you
for forgiving me. And I ask you to come into my heart
I ask you to come into my heart
as my Lord